Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jessica Martin, and hopefully you are here to hear about writing well is like training well. We're going to talk a little bit about how to get your writers thinking about story and how to get them ready to write stories. Before we do that, just want to give a shout out to Chris Lehman for the great honor of inviting me to talk to y'all today. And of course, the Teachers College Reading and Writing Project, who kind of started me on this path. The folks there, Lucy and Lori and Kathleen, Amanda, big shout out to you guys for helping me become the staff developer I've been able to be. And so a little bit about me as well is that I am a teacher, I'm a mom, I'm a staff developer, and I am the co-founder of Growing Educators with Renee Hauser, who's also leading a session right now on classroom management. And we have a little professional development organization out here in California. And so we're excited to have an amazing team of staff developers as well. And we've all kind of put our brains together to make this presentation happen. So I'm really grateful for the team at Growing Educators. You'll see some of their influence, a lot of their influence today in our presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and get started in thinking about writing and how to get our writers off to an amazing start. The reason why we're calling these clinics Getting Ready for Writing is because Renee and I are both sports fans, and we play sports, and we're always kind of thinking through an athlete's lens, athletic lens. And one of the things that we try to do is we try to think about our own lives and try to imagine how we can relate to kids and to tell true to life stories and kind of spy on ourselves. So we're thinking as this workshop as sort of a metaphor for getting kids up and running through sort of clinics. And I think of clinics as a basketball player, I think of clinics as like dribbling clinics and passing clinics and shooting clinics. Footwork clinics, so that kids are then ready to put all of those clinics together and then ultimately play a well-rounded game. And we were thinking through this metaphor for writing, that if kids are immersed in story and they via opportunities to retell stories and storytell, via opportunities to really look closely at narratives and how they're put together and the element work that goes into each story, character setting, plot, movement of time, and change, oftentimes via the characters changing in some way. And if they have opportunities to see that writing work in action via shared writing, that would kind of build up writers before, like immerse them in those types of activities, so that they would then be equipped to sort of begin their journey or strengthen their journey into writing for themselves. And so today we'll kind of go through some of those clinics and kind of get your feedback on that. And hopefully you'll find some things that will be helpful for your classroom that you can try this week. And we'll think through as well how any unit of study in writing, and maybe not even necessarily just in writing, any unit of study might start with some sort of immersion work so that kids really get a sense of where they're headed and what the work might entail. So let's see, if you have questions, you see my hashtag. I'm getting used to all this tech information and how to label everything. So if you have questions at the end of the session or towards the end of the session, you can tweet I guess, me at the Ed Collab Gathering #4. And I'll take a few questions at the end if there's anything that you want to know more about or want some clarification on. Okay, so now I'm going to flip to my PowerPoint, and you'll find that you'll see a way to contact me. You'll find we'll look at student work together. We've got some videos to show you of kids in these clinics, and some things to remember to help you get started. All right, so let's try it. So I hit the wrong one. Let's see if this works. Just very excited that you guys are here. All right, so there's me, and there's the title of our session. And here's our website for more information about the work we're doing in schools and out here in California and across the country. You can visit us at growingeducators.com. Here is just a little bit of my journey in terms of starting off in Lawndale and then moving to the lab school at UCLA, and then eventually meeting Renee at the Teachers College Reading and Writing Project. And now we're here at Growing Educators. So you'll be sure to check out Renee's session. It'll be archived as well, so you won't want to miss her work. All right, so let's look at writing today. This is a K-5 session, so we'll think about the writing process in primary. And if you're primary teachers, this could be a helpful chart to consider. We're having little ones think about their ideas, plan them orally via storytelling or with a partner, touching the page, telling their stories across their hand, and then moving to the sketch and label process where they're visually representing their thinking with illustrations and words. Then it moves to writing. They often use those pictures and labels to help them write. And then we reread, getting that habit of mind in place, looking for clarity, anticipating where readers might have trouble understanding their stories, looking for things we missed, and then teaching them to both revise those stories by adding on to their thinking and then edit their thinking. So typically in classrooms that we're working with, you might see a visual representation of the process, which is Common Core Standard number 5. And in the upper grades, we have that similar process. This is just a really quick example of a process board versus a product wall. And you see immersion being sort of that first stage in the process that happens before the collecting work. And it also happens, we would say here, right, in the primary process before that thinking piece of their own stories, we would do some immersion work, and that's what we're going to focus on today. The immersion process and the writing process in the upper grades would continue in terms of collecting and developing, or choosing a seed idea, developing it, then drafting, and doing the revision work and editing work as well onto publication. Let's see. So if we think about immersion, we are thinking about this idea of sort of immersing ourselves in a study. So Brian Camborne defines it in his Conditions of Learning, this idea of being saturated or enveloped with or flooded by experiences. And in this case, we'll use writing as an example, story writing, narrative writing, and how to really surround the kids so that there's no misconceptions, that you're really removing any of the roadblocks for story by really giving them as much support up front as possible via different kinds of experiences and structures. And we'll use some of the structures of balanced literacy to help us do that. So let's think for a second and maybe place yourself on an immersion continuum. and think if the immersion process is new to you, that you typically jump into writing and get kids thinking about our ideas. And I know that's how I typically began units of study, is really helping kids think about stories from their lives and trying to get that work going. Or maybe you are already doing some a little bit of immersion work via stories, and definitely reading quality literature in your classrooms that really do help kids understand the elements. Or maybe you're somewhere in the middle. Sometimes you're definitely reading stories, but you might not be spending as much time storytelling or doing some shared writing work. And so maybe just think for a second where you are. Is it totally new, you're already doing it, or you're somewhere in the middle? So when you're planning the immersion work and you're thinking about your unit of study being across 5 weeks, 6 weeks, you would think about sort of how you're going to plot out your time. And the first week of any unit of study you might consider immersion week. It could be that your kids just need 2 or 3 days, maybe they need the whole week, so you'll make some decisions, of course, based on their pre-assessments. And we'll talk a little bit later about how that on-demand assessment might look to determine how you might angle your immersion clinics, making sure that you are strategically planning them in a way that supports what your student data is telling you. If your kids need more story element work, or if your kids need more structure work, that you can plan your immersion accordingly based on those needs. So we'll look at together some opportunities or structures for immersion. You'll see 2 videos today, one in a primary and another in an upper grade classroom. And these were shared experiences for us to help kids build knowledge, build awareness around story. So we'll need to have some sort of story to tell, right? And one of the things we can do is create some experiences where the whole community is involved and everyone is present and experiences it firsthand, which ensures kids being able to communicate their interpretations. And of course, some of our language learners and our kids with learning needs will need some support. And the beautiful thing is, since everyone's experienced it, we can all help out in that way. And whether it's via language stems or gesturing or recreating or reenacting, dramatizing, we can all participate because we've kind of gone through that experience. And so that's really supportive of kids who are just acquiring the language or non-standard English speakers, as well as kids, again, who might have some learning needs or processing needs with sequence. And we can sort of support that piece by going back constantly to that classroom experience. We'll also look at storytelling. We have a really great friend, Antonio Sacre, who works with our team at Growing Educators, and he's taught us a lot about the art of storytelling, using gestures and changing your voice, and having repeating lines, and just a quiet space sometimes for dramatic effect. And so helping kids really understand the art of storytelling, and thinking about how they can, in thinking about how they can communicate their ideas. We'll also look at some shared writing. This is really a place where we're putting all the language work and the action work together and on paper. And here's where we really can model the process of writing. How does it move? How do we move from the thinking, the experiencing it, to the thinking about how to organize it, and then how do we get it down on paper? And you know that in the primary grades we often sketch and label, and we might do that as well in the upper grades a little bit as well to bring everybody into the piece visually. And then how do we organize our thinking to get those words down? So we think about shared writing. And then, of course, probably one of their most favorite ways to immerse kids is through a beautiful story. And Donalyn Miller talked today about informational text, right, and narrative text, and we had some great recommendations, and we'll have some too at the end of the session, because the literature, right, you surround your kids with is, you know, that what you put in is what you get out, and so having them become really familiar with some of our favorite writers is definitely a great way to immerse kids in the language and the sound of story. And how it's built, craft and structure and convention. All right, so let's think for a second about how you might build story in your classroom. We're going to watch 2 quick immersion clinic experiences, and then I'll come back and talk to you a little bit about those. The first one is via a teamwork experience in a first grade classroom, and kids are having the experience of passing a hula hoop. And in the second classroom, we'll see our friend April Nichols. She's working with a group of kids, and they're building a machine together. So let's try this. I hope you can see this and we can enjoy this together. Let's see. I don't see the little place to click. Oh, there it is. Oh, yay. Let's see. All right, let's try it. So if you're having trouble hearing, you'll see that we're first making a circle, and then almost like a sequence, right? Let's make a circle, then let's join our hands together, and then let's pass. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so we quickly went around and created an experience together where we are thinking about a beginning, middle, end of a story. Here's the end, right? We set up our story, we set up our experience, and then we set up our experience, we performed our experience, and then we celebrated our experience. So it had a very clear beginning, middle, and end of a story. So that's the idea, right? Is to do something fun. It could be a song, it could be a game, it could be a quick little teamwork activity, and then everyone has an opportunity to play a role, right? No one's left out, unless of course you want. Some kids prefer to watch, and that seems to be okay. A lot of times the learner learns a lot by kind of watching everyone, and that would be fine if they chose to pass. And then we can kind of retell it right then and there, what just happened. Turn to your partner. And then kids with language needs, right? We could visually support that work with sketches, and on the whiteboard or on a dot cam, we can kind of sketch what happened and to allow them to retell right away. Let's go ahead and let me show you an upper grade shared experience to give you a sense of how it could look. Let's go back to the slide here, and if you will try the sound on this one, and see if this one's called The Machine, and these are with 5th graders. All right, so we've got the kids coming up and being a part of, they're having a good time, being a part of a class collaborative in terms of a shared experience to build something unique and fun. How exciting it is to contribute something and that there's no wrong answers to, right? Everyone can do what they want, and look how it gets kids moving and laughing and experimenting, and gets movement up in your room. Right, and gradually more folks can join in. Again, it can be the whole class, it can be small groups, but just everybody playing a role, playing a part in some way. And that's our friend April. Okay, so there are, those are 2 really wonderful opportunities just to create something fun and dynamic and get everybody moving and laughing and together. And then naturally wanting to talk about what just happened and getting them to talk about it via, like, tell the story of what just happened is the goal, right? And having it be just really an experience that we all can then go back to, because it's something, one of those things like you don't forget that you played that game or you sang that song or you did that dance. So let's do this. Let's think about the next piece here in the PowerPoint, which is maybe just take a couple seconds and think about a shared community experience that you've had that you could use with your kids, or maybe this hopefully is sparking an opportunity for you to imagine something you could be doing with your kids on Monday, and then going back and telling the story. And it could work also, right, in informational writing, right, because you could talk a little bit about what you learned from the experience, and in terms of, for example, building a machine together was fun because, right? Because we worked together, because we had to pay attention to each other to know what to do next, because we all had a great laugh, right? And so you're almost setting up a little bit of like an essay structure, having an idea and supporting it with the detail. You can also have an opinion about the hula hoop game, right, or the machine, and back it up with supports that you really did experience for yourself. And so this idea of looking at the Common Core and thinking about writing and what we're being asked to, the text types we're being asked to support, this immersion work can be really powerful in getting the whole body involved in learning it. All right, so let's look at this next piece together, and that is the storytelling and shared writing piece. We are next going to watch some kids, and I'm trying to figure out the sound for this. We're going to watch some kids tell story, and we paired it a little bit with the shared writing. Let me see if let's see. I'm not sure how to. I can turn off my sound system, and maybe the sound system will come up. Let's try it. So this one is storytelling and shared writing. I'll see if I can click this one on. I turned off my Bluetooth. Let's see. Are you there? Go get him. So, I don't know if that's helping with the sound at all. Oops. Let's see. Oh, sorry. Let's see. Let me go back for a second. So in this video, we're setting up the story, how to tell the story, and we're thinking about I don't know if that helps. He said he can't hear any sounds. So. I just turned that up.
You hear just fine.
I'm here. He's saying the Bluetooth headset's eating sound.
Yeah, you can turn it off.
I don't hear him. What is he saying now? So are people hearing that? Well, he's not talking, so how do I? Here he is. Oh, that's where I was supposed to put my headphones?
It's still not playing.
Hi everyone, my name is Ryan Dunbar, and I'm just helping out with the tech on this. So as you can see, Jessica's just having a little bit of issues with the sound, which we're working out right now. So if you could just stay patient with us, and we'll have the sound on these videos up very, very soon. Thank you so much.
I can't hear him at all. I don't hear anything in here either. So you need to just get me back to my, so I can talk.
Yeah, Jessica?
What?
Oh, I can't hear you.
I need you to, I need to talk.
Yeah, let me stop this.
Stop what?
Hold on.
It's ended.
Put the headset in and start talking.
Okay, So I'm back. So you just saw primary little ones having an experience where thanks tech support. Saw primary little ones have a experience storytelling the experience, and it could be that you're storytelling it right away, or it could be something that you quickly just retell and then storytell the next day. You might even have the experience again the next day, and then retell it and then work on that storytelling piece, right? What were some of the gestures? What, maybe change our voice, like who said what, move, pass it, hurry up, don't let go, like who was saying what, and try to play with a little bit of what actually happened via storytelling devices. So let's quickly look at the upper grade storytelling piece. And Renee's doing this work. Let's see, I think, I'm not sure which one to click now. I think it's this one. Let's try this one. And then let's move to the next slide. And then here's upper grade. And I might have to talk through it if you can't hear. I'm wondering if you all can hear this one. Okay, so Renee is now going back over the story, and she's helping kids think about who were the people in the story, where was the which was April, right? She was leading the shared machine experience, the machine experience, and then there was where was it happening, and then kind of thinking about the beginning, middle, end, and then kids are turning to their partners, and they're thinking about like how they might interpret the story. So there's lots of experiences built in for kids to practice. Here's some great gesturing going on. And then there's this work of are we gonna do it together? Am I gonna listen and then I get a turn? So there's that negotiating work going on. And so kids have that space to try it out for themselves. And you can see in this classroom there's quite a bit of space for kids, even in the upper grades, to meet, find a cozy spot, and get started. All right, so maybe take a few seconds and think about how you might nurture storytelling work. This is all happening during your writing workshop time. So kids wouldn't necessarily be writing that day. They would have the experience, then you might do some read aloud work, or they might have the experience and then retell and do some storytelling work. Like you can imagine what a week might look like, and we'll do that at the end of the session. Like how might you organize the entire week to include these multiple opportunities to experience, retell, storytell, and do some writing work together before we actually get our own pens on the paper. So just think about that for a second, this whole idea of storytelling. And then let's see. And then the final immersion clinic would be this idea of looking at some mentor text together closely. And you would decide on how to plan your mentor text based on, again, what your kids are showing you in their writing. Let's see. Let's watch this video. I believe this is me working with some upper grade kids, and we're looking at Come On Rain together, and we're getting our mind ready to make sure that we can kind of include or pay attention to the story elements. And because of our sound issues, I'll just kind of show you the setup of it. So, just meeting with a group of kids before the start of the lesson and getting them to think about the parts of a story and what they kind of do some prior knowledge work. What do they understand about the parts of a story? And could they name out not the parts of the story, sorry, like the elements of a story. And so what do they already know that stories need? I did a little salad metaphor in this one, what goes into making salads, but really could be anything. And they were all, ranch dressing, lettuce, carrots, tomatoes, right? I said, so let's think about what could go into a story to make a story really delicious as well. And of course they knew a lot about character, setting, action and plot, and they didn't know so much about that necessarily moves through time. They weren't able to articulate that as much, or that sometimes there's some sort of change. Oftentimes there's a change going on. And so we were thinking of kind of brainstorming together first. They were talking with their partners about that, and then we moved into looking at the story together and kind of getting our brains around being able to identify story elements first. And so we're listing here we just kind of listed them out, and then I created a little graphic organizer so that today when we're reading the story, if we can answer any of those questions, we can plug that information in to our little graphic organizer and keep reading. And so I'm also here creating just little icons. In this classroom, there's some language learners and struggling or developing readers, and so having icons as well supports their understanding, right, of story element work and being on the lookout. And so let's see if I can. So I'll stop the video here, and then I'll go into the story where we look at Karen Hess's beautiful story, Come On Rain. And I'm not so great at using the smartboard, but I can imagine that you could do the same work using a smartboard. I'm working on that. That's my next thing, webinar, and then using the smartboard. But because I would love to be able to add on, right, and do all this and put it in a folder. I love how that could all work together with immersion work and technology. So. Here I'm just trying to act out and support vocabulary work. Squinting, what does squinting look like? So I think you guys kind of get the gist of setting up readers for story element work, and the reason being is because when we wrote stories, or they wrote their own stories when I did pre-assessment work with them, on-demand work assessment with them before the unit began, their stories, the majority of their stories lacked story element work. So then that leads me to, I need to immerse kids in parts of story elements. How do the story elements work? And then how does sequence work? I just want to make sure that I shore up that here's what stories contain, and then I can help them think, where are those elements in your story, right? So hopefully this idea of it is coming across clearly that if you see an issue, then we can use different immersion clinics to support that issue or that learning need, and put a heavy spotlight on it. And we know Common Core, for example, is huge on closure, right? So it makes sense then that we set kids up to pay attention to how stories end, and then with our shared experience work, let's really slow down our endings. Let's story tell them in interesting and exciting ways. Let's look at other authors' endings, right? Let's write endings of our own together in our class story, and maybe we'll write a couple different endings to see which one really fits the meaning of our story. So whatever roadblock, whatever issue comes up, we can really angle our immersion work. And this slide here is about looking closely at text, and you, a lot of you know this whole idea of that interactive read aloud piece, like where do I stop, where do I model my thinking, where do I have kids try it out, their thinking as well with a partner. And so you'll see oftentimes when using a mentor text, there'll be strategic places where we plant stop and talk, or stop and jot, or stop and think, so that they have time to sort of make their own meaning around whatever it is we're talking about. Story element work, interesting transitions, closure, craft. So something to think about when you're planning a read aloud is, of course, always enjoying the story and then going in and looking at with a particular angle in mind to support thinking and learning. So here's a slide that just kind of gives you hopefully a simple kind of 1, 2, 3, 4. Read the text together. Go back and pay attention to where you had a reaction. And what was that reaction, and then name out what the author did to make you have that reaction. That might be how you generally introduce kids to a mentor text. And then we would go back and think, now, what is the roadblock or the convention, right, that we can support kids with based on their assessment. So always read a text first and enjoy it and react to it, and then go back and think about the work you can do inside of it that really does make it become a mentor text that we'll go to often. Here are a couple of mentor texts that we love. Joshua's Night Whispers, the one I read below, Come On Rain, Knuffle Bunny, Shortcut. And this session will be available so you can go back. And these are especially for story element work. Here's illustration study. If your little ones are having some challenges with drawing their ideas and representing them visually, here's some stories that could support that work. Maybe your kids are lacking a variety of detail and you want to shore that information up. So some of our recommendations are when Sophie gets angry, really, really angry by Molly Bang. Of course, Angela Johnson's Rain Feet. And one of the ones that I love and use all the time is My Best Friend. I'm really after stories that highlight kids of color, and particularly I work with a lot of schools in South LA, and I can't tell you how excited they are to see themselves in books. So these are some great examples for elaboration for convention work. Roller Coaster by Marla Frazee, really interesting uses of punctuation and grammar work. The Pesky Rat. And the last slides are Fireflies, a classic for upper grade kids, and Salt Hands for focus.
Great. So, Jessica, I'm just going to cut in for a second.
Okay.
Actually, I just had one question that I was able to get from Twitter for you quickly, and that was, can you see this type of work, this immersion work, happening in other subjects or other content areas other than just kind of with ELA work?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, because we're thinking that really in anything that we're doing in terms of for scientists or mathematicians, what would it mean to create or be in a word problem or have a science experience, obviously, right, with bubbles or electricity, with magnets, right, to have those experiences, to story tell them first, and then or go out and measure things, go out and collect data, right? Have an activity, have an experience first, and then go through this idea of how can we retell it? How can we make it into a story? And then how might we communicate that story to others? And then how might we ultimately write that story down, or that information down, or that opinion down, so that we could use it as a mentor and support the writing process.
Great. And the last thing that that we got from Twitter too wasn't exactly a question about the presentation as much as it was hoping that we could somehow get access to, hopefully get access to the videos that you had posted in your slides, and hopefully we'll be able to link those underneath this YouTube video so that people can watch those with sound at a later time.
Yeah. I know. Sorry, you guys. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the plan, is that go through this and but then have a complete version where you can hear the kids and hear some of the teaching going on, and that would be available to you via the archive.
Yes.
And then if not too, we're going to put some of these as well on our website at growingeducators.com. So either one, hopefully, will have the sound support for you, because it does. Sorry about that. It does, you know, make all the difference to hear the kids and hear some of the teaching.
Yeah. So we'll definitely get those links put up in the archive, and yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciated this.
Oh my gosh, is it over? That was so much fun, you guys. Thanks, everybody.